Hello, my name is Casper Hansen, and today we're gonna tie a classic Swedish fly called Den Vanlige, or the usual. It's a fly that works very well in a lot of Scandinavian waters with its classic color combination of the brown, orange, yellow, gold and blue. And we're going to tie it in a tube version the way that I do it. And we're going to start out with preparing the tube. I tie it on a 13mm brass tube with a clear plastic tube inside. I just burn the tubing a little bit here. To make a little color here, and I give it a drop of super glue just so it won't slip and stay in place. Just like that. Then I cut it off, maybe 5-6 millimeters in front of the brass tube, and burn a little color up here as well. All right, now we're ready. Place the tube on my needle here. And then I start out with the yellow thread. I'm gonna change it later, but because of the first part of the fly is gold and yellow dubbing, I use a thread that matches those colors. Just build up here with the thread so that I easily can move it up on the metal tubing. At first we're gonna put on a gold flat braid body. I take a bit of this classic goldish flat braid, which is a very nice material. It's strong and it works really good. I tie it in underneath here. Go back with the thread almost 1, maybe 2 millimeters from the end of the brass tube. A few hard turns, and then I move the thread back towards the plastic part. Then I take the flat braid, make sure it covers everything here. A good thing with the flat braid is that it's very strong, so I can really tighten it up so it won't move anywhere. So after each turn I just tighten it quite a lot. Like this, maybe 3 millimeters before the end of the brass tubing. Tie it in, and I just fold it back to secure it even more. Cut it off like that. Then I want to make the front part of the body with some yellow dubbing. I use this SSS dubbing in an magma yellow and hot magma yellow color. I mix these two because the hot magma has a few of these very fluorescent fibers in it. I like to put those in with the warm yellow. So I take these and I just mix them with my fingers before I'm gonna put them on the thread. And this is the main reason why I use the yellow thread, because when the fly gets wet, I can't see the thread beneath the dubbing. I'm gonna build a little ball of dubbing here on the body with the dubbing. I put on a little bit at a time, and I first move backwards on the fly, and then I move in front again, just like this, and I spin it quite hard. This is just gonna be the underlayer. Like this, and then I'm gonna dub the other way, and I'm just gonna build up a little ball where I'm gonna cross the thread a little bit here. This ball will help me lift the wing of the fly when I'm gonna build that up. And I'm just gonna pull back the dubbing, and then I have maybe 3-4 millimeters that I'm gonna tie in the rest of the wing with. I'm just gonna find my dubbing brush here. I'm just gonna brush out the dubbing a little bit, like that. Not too much, it's not necessary, but just a little bit. Put away the dubbing. Now I'm gonna tie the underwing, which is built up with polar bear in two colors. First the yellow color and then an orange color. The reason why I use the polar bear is because it's both, it's very, very shiny and a very nice material. It works really good, almost a flashy look, but also it has a stiffness to it that lifts the rest of the wing, because the overwing is going to be a very soft hair that I use there. So when I fish this fly in fast moving water, I still want it to be, voluminous and be a nice drop form. So I use this polar bear to build the underwing and to support the overwing later on. Because it is quite a stiff material compared to soft materials like fox and other hairs, I have to be a little bit careful with the amount of hair that I choose. I brush away all the small woolly parts here, and then I see, okay, I have to take maybe out a little bit more. I like to taper the wing again, so when I've got the right amount, which I think I have now, I'm just gonna measure in, see, okay, I want it maybe just a little bit longer than the tubing. This looks okay. Take it over, put it in my left hand, cut it off like this. Back to my right hand, turn it around in between my fingers, and now I have the edges here. Gonna put it on. Spin a thread just a little bit to make it stronger, and then 2-3 soft turns pull this a little bit back. One turn back, and then I go 1, 2, 3 hard turns. Now I have secured the hair here, and I have a little bulk here that I'm gonna push this up against to make it lift up a little bit. Here I use my thumbnail just to press it down to widen it out so that it straightens out to each side, but that doesn't fall down on the side like this here. I think it looks all right. And because this is a stiff and very slippery hair as well, I just put on a little bit of super glue right here. To make sure it won't move. Then I take the other part of the underwing, the orange polar bear. I want these to be a little bit longer than the yellow ones. Again, I take away the small ones first. I have to be careful with the amount. With this wing that I'm gonna tie in maybe in 4 bunches. I have to be careful that I don't put on too much material. The underwing is gonna be a contrast to the dark brown overwing, but it's also gonna lift it up, but it shouldn't be the dominant part of the wing. So be careful with the amount of material that you use here. The orange I tie in on top of the place where I put on the yellow. And I have to be careful that it don't go down on the sides. Seems like it sits nicely here. Then I pull it back and try to spread it out. So that we get this nice wide wing. Yeah. Again, I use a little bit of super glue just to make sure that it stays in place. I think this looks quite all right. Now I put in the first hackle. I use a Kingfisher blue soft neck hackle, which is going to cover the point where I tied in the polar bear now. I use 2 hackles for this one. This is the first. I pull the fibers back so that when I put on the hackle, the fibers that go on first are the shortest one, closest to the point of the feather, and then they become longer and longer. That gives a nice taper to the hackle and to the fly, and just supports the drop form that I want. Then I go with my knife and try to fold down the fibers on one side of the feather. And then I turn it. Two turns up here on the polar bear part, and then one turn down on the plastic tubing to cover it all up. I cut off the extra part and fold back the few fibers that are in front here. Then I changed to the black thread. I'm not gonna finish the yellow one with the knot. I'm just gonna do like this, let the thread go around the yellow one, and then I can cut it off like this, and then I'm finishing the fly with the black thread. Now I'm going to tie in the main overwing, which is tied in, which is made by this soft brown hair, and I'm going to use not a big bunch, but still enough to make it, give it some volume and a nice drop form. Cut it off and just brush it through like this. To make sure the hair is nice and even. Then I'm gonna taper it a bit by pulling out the middle part of the hair just a little bit. You can see here that the middle part is pulled out maybe a centimeter in front of the rest of the hair, which gives this nice tapered look to the fly. Leave this here, now it's ready, but before I tie it in, I'm just going to put in a little bit of flesh in the fly. I don't put in a lot, but I tie in 2 strands of this glisten glow or firefly flesh. Has different names depending on where you buy it, but I use 2 strands, one in gold and one in copper. I tie it in here. Just in front of the blue Heckle. A little bit tricky. Here we go. And to make sure that it sits well and strong, I fold it back to make this little V shape of the flesh, so it will blend in nicely with the rest of the wing. Then I measure out the length of the wing that I want, and I would like it to be maybe a little bit longer than the orange hair, the orange polar bear. I cut it off here, turn it around so I get this part in my hand. Make sure that I put this in on top of the orange polar bear. Pull up a little bit in the hair so it won't go down on the sides too much before I fold it back. Then I make these 3 hard turns just to make sure that it sits where I want it to. Then I divide this bunch into 2. Like this. And I pull the first bunch back quite hard. Again, make sure it don't go down on the sides, but stays where you want it to, on the top. I can always press it out wide with my thumbnail. Like this. Looks alright, I think. Now I'm gonna put in the second hackle before I turn back the rest of the wing. And the second hackle is a rump feather from a pheasant that I have dyed in this nice blue color. I take away the fluffy part first. So I have these quite long fibered feathers, but it looks really nice. You get this almost spay, heron hackle, spayish kind of look, but it works really nice. It moves extremely well in the water, and you get this transparent, very lively look of the fly. To make sure that this sits well, I'm just going to tie it in at the tip, fold the tip back, and then tie it in again. And to make sure that this stays in place, and just weten it a little bit. Two turns like this, and then back. 2 more, maybe even 3. And then I can cut off the tip here of the feather. Like this. Then I'm gonna fold down the fibers here as well, and use my hackle plier. And then make 2 turns of this. Try to put them right next to each other so they won't take up too much space, and tie in the feather like this. And I can cut off the rest here. And now I have 2 hackles. one here in the middle of the wing, which will help lift the wing even more, which I like. I try to fold down the fibers a little bit before I pull back here. Now I'm gonna tie in the rest of the wing, which can be a little bit tricky, but once you've tried it a few times, it works quite all right. So I pull back here and make sure that I don't, again, loosen it down on the sides too much, but use the thumbnail instead to press it down. Here we go. Now I can just brush through to make sure it sits like I want it to. This seems all right, I think. Now I just have to finish the fly with a bit of cheeks from the jungle cock. I pick out a few that I think matches the size of the fly. Put them on top of each other like this. See how long I want them, pretty much the same length as the tubing, more or less. When I tie in the jungle cock, I try to hit the exact spot here where the wing ends and the hackle starts, to cover that bit up a little bit. I think that looks nice when the feather kind of lays just in that area. See, I think I have to pull this one a little bit. That looks good. So now the feather is secured. I just take the hackle stems here, fold them back, and try to create a small, nice black head on my fly. See if I covered it all up. I more or less did. That's it. Then I'm just gonna finish off. With a small knot, tighten it up, cut off the rest of the thread, and then I'm just gonna take away the stem from the jungle cock that I folded back. Like this. Then I'm gonna trim the flesh a little bit. Like this. I don't want the flesh to be too long, but just around the edge of the wing. Then I take my brush and I just brush the wing carefully to make sure it sits the way I want it to. And this looks quite good, I think. It's quite wide first, but it's very tapered, so when the current starts to work on it, it will really look nice. When I fish these kind of flies, I fish them with a loose hanging triple or double hook. I use a little bit of silicone rubber to fix the hook, but other than that, I don't fix the hook to the tube. I want it loose hanging because these long wings have a tendency to, if you have a fixed hook, maybe get tangled. But when you fish it with a loose hanging hook, the wing makes it untangles itself from the long wing, and it swims really, really nice. And also when you use these metal tubes, you have a little bit of weight that helps the fly to fish as soon as it hits the water, because it goes a little bit down under the top current, which is a really, really nice way to fish your fly, because you get the fly fishing right away as soon as it hits the water. And I like that very, very much. So this is my version of the usual, or Den Vanlige, which is a very nice salmon fly for Scandinavian waters. Especially like to fish it in maybe a little brownish colored water, but I've caught fish on it in several other rivers that have very clear water. We use it also a lot in these Danish waters, like Skjern and Storåen, which are two very nice rivers in Denmark. So yeah, give it a try. It might work for you as well.